What's up, everybody? We are back. John Delarose here, delarose.com. That's DELARROZ.com. It's been a while since I've done one of these writing secrets videos, but what I try to do is I try to answer questions when people ask them of me. This one comes from a Patreon subscriber, so thank you very much for the question. I hope this helps you out in your writing endeavors. And I was asked, how do I outline my novels? How do my novels get structured so that I can just go and write really quickly? And that's what I do. My whole purpose of outlining is I build the world, I do the characters, and I make outlines that are pretty robust so that when I get to writing, I know exactly what I'm going to write for the day, usually a full scene or chapter, and then I can just plow right through it. There's never any question in my mind what I'm going to write, and that helps me so I never get what people refer to as writer's block, and it just helps me to keep going. If you enjoy the book, make sure to check out the series on Amazon. This is now 5 books in, including a Steam Knight novel, which is kind of a side story. And I'll be working on the next book in this series, The Crystal Conspiracy, as soon as I'm finished editing with some of the stuff that I'm trying to get out right now. So this is it for Steam and Country. We're going to go over my outlining process for you guys right here. The first thing I start out with is an idea. And when I was looking at this, I was starting to think about steampunk. I was really into steampunk at the time, and I couldn't find any good steampunk books that I was really interested in reading. So I was like, okay, I'm just going to write my own and fix that, and it'll be my genre. I'm going to make this into what I want. I'm really not interested in like a werewolf romance that's set in the 1800s, which is what most steampunk stuff ends up kind of being. I wanted a fantasy action adventure. So I started with genre, and I'm like, okay, I've got that. Fantasy action adventure, that's great. What do I want to do? And I started thinking about just films I like, movies and books and things like that I like. Just try to pick sort of the aspects of things that I'm interested in. This one with Zara von Monocle was a young person going off and fighting a war, gets a aerial combat weapon and ends up blowing up a enemy installation that threatens to destroy everybody. So I kind of took that plot from a movie you might have heard of called Star Wars. It's a pretty standard plot. I mean, it's a classic hero's journey and a classic coming of age story, and pretty easy there. I changed a lot of the elements of it, of course. Spoiler, Zara's father is not some evil villain in this. He's an actual hero for the Empire. So there's different things I put into here to make it my own. But the basis of it is a very, very simple, tried and true hero's journey plot that I started with. Very funny, I got criticized by actually an author I really love, one of my favorite authors of all time. I mentioned what the plot synopsis was. A young girl inherits an airship, and goes and joins the military and saves the world. And he says, he wrote me an email back saying, that's really unrealistic. Why would anybody give this simple farmer young person a weapon of war? And I said, that's literally Luke Skywalker's deal. Like that's literally what happens in Star Wars. And he's like, oh yeah, huh? So you never know. You never necessarily want to listen to advice on what people tell you what you should write or what's realistic or whatnot. Because when you start to break things down, realism is not always the best goal. But that's where it started. I had a genre in mind. I had a type of story in mind, a hero's journey, action, adventure. And then I went from there and started just thinking up characters. Once I had some characters in my head, I usually write a character sheet out. And you can find character sheets all over the internet. Just come up with a backstory, their descriptive features, the way they look, their family relations, how they react towards certain people and things, what they love, what they hate. And once you have that, you're in a good shape to go. So at that point, I start with my plot synopsis. And my plot synopsis is very simple usually. One sentence at the most. I write these down like this. This is not what I had back in the day. I didn't save it, but this is what I wrote for my plot synopsis. Now, Zara von Monocle inherits an airship and fights to save her kingdom and rescue her father from the evil Wyranth. Now, you don't need more than that. You don't have to make it polished or anything like that. You just have to have an idea in your head, and writing it down makes you really think about it. And so I started to think about it at that point. I let it percolate for a couple of days, and then I move on to a more robust plot synopsis. You see, it's just a paragraph. Sometimes I do 2 or 3 paragraphs, depending. Again, this is not my actual one. It's just an example. Zara inherits her airship, which we got from the first one. Okay, so now we've got more developing. She goes to the king to formalize her ownership of the airship and is attacked by the Wyranth. She learns her father, who she thought was dead, might be alive. By the way, there's spoilers for Steam and Country in here. This is book one. I assume you guys have all read it, or it's not a big deal. The books beyond this really open this story up a lot more. She pleads to go help him. The king won't listen. They hijack the airship and go into Wyranth territory. There's a battle. They get captured. Zara ends up in prison with her father. They escape with the help of the knights. They learn there's a terrible Wyranth weapon buried in the mountain. They set off a bomb and have to blow it up to save their kingdom. With her father, they return home as heroes. Now, this expanded things quite a bit, and you've got quite a bit more going on here. For a novel, you're going to need more than just a few sentences because you're going to have enough scenes to really carry out like 60, 70, 80, maybe even 100 or 200,000 words. So it has to be a plot that's got a little bit more depth than, say, a short story would have. And that's how I do this. So once I've got this, again, I sit and I let it percolate for a few days, and then I go to my outline. Now, this is my actual outline for Steam and Country. This is the actual one I wrote for it. I think I wrote this back in 2014 for the outline. And you can see it's pretty long. I think we got 5 pages worth. And every single scene is laid out here. I lay out every single scene, just like we got Zara. Scene 1, for example, is Zara's world is shaken, literally, as an earthquake occurs at Zara's farm. You see, I'm adding a lot more detail as what's going to happen in every scene now in Plains Road Village. Zara rushes back to the house to ensure her ferret is okay. I added a pet ferret at this point. We meet Mr. Gentry, the neighbor who cares about Zara, and the father of her best friend, James. So he's the father of her best friend, James. It's kind of written poorly, but I understood what I was saying, and that's what's important for the outline. An attorney shows up at the house and tells her father's will left her an inheritance. Again, that's written poorly. I wouldn't put that in the final product, but I understand what I'm saying there. After determining he's safe, she goes off in his steam car with him to go claim it. Zara learns her father was a great adventurer who knew King Maliki personally. So we're introducing a lot of background plots. We're introducing side characters that are going to show up here, which I didn't have in my short synopses because that wasn't really important for like just getting that main plot hammered. But as we start to break things down into scene, we do need to get that information imparted. So that's how that goes. So every single scene has its own breakdown. Here is how I do things, and that works out really well towards the end of the books. Now you're wondering, as I write through the scenes, things start to change a little bit because that's just the nature of things. And what happens usually is around, I'd say, halfway through the book or whatever, I usually have some changes that need to be made just because the characters take things in a different direction, because I have robust character sheets already made and I know them pretty well. Or I, just have written a plot hole and I need to fix it, which I learned because I've outlined it already. And so I'm thinking about the plot structure as I'm writing it when I'm actually doing the first draft. And so what'll happen is when I get to that point is I'll revise my outline and I'll shift everything down further so that I can fix the plot holes in my first draft before I actually keep writing. I don't stay to the outline just because it's there. If there's something that is amiss in the story and I need to rewrite the outline, I rewrite the outline first. That way I do less work when I actually get to it because it's already polished on that level. So this is actually already a rewritten outline. I did that. I had my original outline. I don't know where it is now. But what happens is usually I just write over my thing. So I'll like delete, if scene 13 is a problem, I'll just delete it and I'll rewrite my scene 13. Or sometimes it'll be all the way going forward. I remember this one, I actually had to change the entire back half of the book. And so I did that within the outline first before I actually started writing. And that organization, all this is just organizing things out up front. I have a whole plan of attack for this, and it makes it easier to write as I actually get into the writing. So I can just go through. I've already got the story already in my head. It's already thought out. At that point, it's just fleshing out the characters, their emotions, their motivations, and digging deep into their psyches. And that's where the actual book magic is made. All right, I hope that helps for people who are interested in writing. And please go check out the books if you haven't done so already. Really appreciate people who do that. It helps support the channel and all of that. They're all available on Amazon. And of course, I've got a Patreon and a newsletter, which you can all sign up for in the description below as well. hit that like and subscribe button. We'll be back soon.